Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all well on a Thursday. After the clock changes, winter is truly setting in now. But we have some evening entertainment for you, so fear not. As we have, let me just get the number right, around 19 of the Super Series for the AROC. At the Imola circuit in the Alfa Romeo 4C Competizione sports car. So, qualifying is underway. So we shall transfer over to the race as it happens, or the qualifying as it happens. And at the moment, with the times as it happens, as we watch Colin Kniff, unfortunately in the middle of a spin, who has taken an early pole position place. That to work. Playing. There we are. Now you can hear the wonderful 500 horsepower, 517 horsepower 4-seater. As early stages of qualifying, it does look like Colin has taken pole position at the moment, but there's still a long time to play for. Few people still to set times. Greg Young, I'm sure, hot on his tail, nearly 0.28 of a second behind Colin there. We're looking to find as much time as he can. Matt Daly has found some extra time on the circuit. Managed to equal to both of them for the moment. Quite a complex track. On approximately 17 turns in it. A fair few heavy braking zones. With some very tricky chicanes that have taken long and cost dearly. I believe there is some behind the scenes work in the admin side getting the race penalty system changed. Be interesting to see whether that's and bad habits from the other drivers impede them in particularly, as we see Matt Daly unfortunately have a little bit of a spin there. Looks like his gap to Colin won't be enough to clinch the pole position for the race, but you never know, that might be just enough that he needs to do to get the job done. As it looks like Colin has actually managed to take the position back. So a fight is on for a few of them to get that pole position. Miss Albrecht still 2 post-qualifying times. So that has Miss Albrecht managed to get across that finish line to put first time on the board. Even Williams in front at the moment. Bob Whitney trying to find some more in the sectors. Paul Plant, who has shown very good pace in a few of the past races. Harry in red race livery there. Alan Matthews in 9th. Andrew Whitehead in 8th, who's unfortunately having a slight tangle there with a slow vehicle. Null and void. Still plenty of time to make improvements. Rose coming in 5th. Bracket in 4th. Daly at the moment now under 3rd place grid. Colin Caniff coming into it, possibly for a few subtle changes perhaps. And Greg Young currently in pole position. Purple across all the sectors, managing to find a decent amount of time. Currently just over 0.8 of a second ahead of who is now Mr. Smith. So some of them have managed to find extra time. As we see Alex currently on a hot lap again. Mr. Caniff tumbling down the order from an initial early pace. Alex not like showing orange at the moment with a very marginal split time there. The second sector make any improvements. Again, one of the heavy braking zones is very high curbs on the inside of the corner there. Take the line wrong, cut it too fine, and it will throw the car to the outside. And these things being very low to the ground depending on the aero. Hopefully get more performance out of the car. And you can see how much of an effect in the corner too much has had on the overall time from Alex, costing him almost nearly a second fastest time so far. And being past midnight, get another lap in. The top 5 places all within a second of each other. Yes, the Young, who had some issues, has now come back into the pits to potentially make some changes. Alex actually up on his previous time by 0.259 of a second. Moment going a lot quicker. Taking up all the track and more that he can find. Feeling those dive as he brakes, turns in. Much neater line this time. Passes turns 11 and 12. Long straight to the set of corners at Rivazza, if I'm saying that right. Fortunately, he turns wide, that'll cost him time. But no less has found some extra time in the beginning of the lap. So with 7 minutes to go, Greg Young pole position. Alex Smith in second. Cracker in third. James Rose in fourth. And fifth round out. Top 5. Matt Daly actually again now managing to break within a second. 6th place. But a very long straight until turns 2 and 3, or the chicanes as we see go through them now. So that's going to be, the circuit's quite wide, not quite a heavy braking zone. Be interesting to see if everyone can make it through unscathed of that one. That Daly's managed to find 0.6 of a second up on the first sector. Coming up to a slightly slower car ahead of him. Have to move out the way if he's on a hot lap. I'm sure Matt just hoping there's a big enough a gap that won't impede him, but maybe small enough that he can then use some of the slipstream to improve on his time. Comes through step 2. He's up overall on sector 2. This could be pole position, ramming time. I'll put the commentator's curse on him. But deliberate as he comes down past the pit entrance. To complete the lap, and will indeed take pole position. Throwing down the gauntlet to the rest of the pack. Someone takes to rearranging the gravel traps there. Matt Daly, as we see, provisional pole sitter for the moment. Colin Kniff has found some extra time as well. Clearly the assessment changes worked as he's now back up into second spot on the grid. As we look at Alex Smith in currently third position on the grid, taking the start finish straight to challenge, tentatively try and challenge for pole position again. That's not to say that third on the grid will be any hindrance to any of them. It could all change in the first corner. It's marginally up, but fortunately that's not quite the right line at turn 10. I'll avoid his lap. Greg Young getting round. That was being off the side. I'm not sure who it was as we see James Rose come out of the pits. Andrew Whitehead a little bit off the pace in qualifying for the moment, but has shown very consistent race pace getting through the field. Potentially with heavier ballast on board, that's obviously having an effect on balance and speed of the car. Matt Daly actually coming up behind Andrew Wyatt, so you can see how much harder it is for Andrew to get his car around compared to Matt at the moment. Colin Kniff closing in, trying to close in as much as he can on pole position. And actually, despite what the time was telling us, actually managed to achieve an incredible time there to clinch pole for the moment. Colin Kniff again making more improvements on his time. Young in the pits at the moment. Everyone has currently now set a time on the board. As we round out the last few seconds of qualifying, Colin looks like has clinched pole position and has pulled off the racetrack as he knows he's done enough. However, Matt Daly looks like, I think that's the beginning of the lap. I think, believe this. No, Matt Daly has indeed finished for his time, but Joe Billingsley has managed to just leapfrog the young there into fourth position. As just finishes their time moment. Orders will change. There. Has pulled it on his lap. Andrew White now up into fourth. Do his best. Actually, there might just be a glitch because as people drop out of the server for the reset, their times will change. As Andrew comes around to complete that. So we will get the button I was looking. So we will get the server switched. Two words tried to escape there at the same time. Oh, I don't recommend it. We'll get the server changed over, refreshed, and ready to go for the race. We'll be back in a second. Welcome back. Thank you for waiting. Server is all set up and refreshed. We are on a 1 hour race format, plus a lap from the leader. And one mandatory pit stop as well when the pit window is open. Which caused some issues for some people who maybe miscalculated their fuel slightly. So it'll be interesting to see whether people are using what quantities of fuel people are using, whether they managed to time them correctly. There were some very, very good battles going on before and after the pit windows. So we shall see if that has an effect at the moment, as we just over a minute to go until the beginning of the race. Like we have everyone in the server for a moment, fairly successfully. So, join the action with 30 seconds to go. With Colin in pole position. A little bit of a technical issue. I can't go through the rundown, unfortunately. However, I suspect it may change in the next 10 seconds. Wait for the lights to go green. 6 red lights in the gantry. They go out and away we go. Colin, unfortunately, had a bad start there at the beginning of the race, has swamped down the order. And I believe that's Tom that stormed away there. Got a very, very good start. And indeed, there's been massive changes at the moment. There's a spin in the Andrew Whitehead, I think, managed to get away with that, but was pointing in the wrong direction. Paul Plant, again, has got it wrong. Unfortunately, there are spins at the back, but it looks like everyone has now managed to get going. There's, again, change at the back as some of the drivers are going to be trying to catch up as much as possible. And there's a few close gaps. John Billingsley closing in on Matt Daly, who had a very, very good start to get into first place. Just double check. Yeah, that's working. So Matt Daly, as he comes through the turn 10 to the excuse me, Variante Alta chicane. Excuse me if I've got that wrong. There's more changes at the back, as unfortunately Mr. Stephen Knight is off the circuit, which is a great shame to see. There's more changes in the mid pack as the faster drivers now trying to filter through. But we have, as the first lap is soon to be completed, Mr. Matt Daly in first. Followed very closely by John Billingsley, nearly a second behind him. Alex Smith in third place. There's another shift at the back of the pack. James Rosen fourth with Colin Cunniff, who unfortunately had a poor start at the beginning of the race. Albeit lag or maybe just a bog down the start. Back in fifth position, we'll be looking to try and get as far up the order as he can. Everyone filtering into single file fairly quickly up the circuit. Andrew Whitehead in 6th place at the moment. Right behind him, Tom Perry has got past Alan Matthews, and then Alan Matthews running wide and is now being passed by Stephen Williams. He's now storming up the road away from him. Mr. Perry trying to come back under braking, but is too far away, and we're hoping to try close the gap again. Matt Daly now extending his lap nearly 1.5 seconds over John, who is now disappearing up the road. Alan Matthews trying to get back onto the back. It looks like there's been a spin at the back. John Billingsley has now fallen down the order. Looks like he may have had an error part way around the circuit. He's not pointing the wrong way, so he's managed to keep going from whatever issue that was, but he's now back into 4th in the clutches of Colin Caniff, behind, as he's just about to pick off James Rose very easily there down the start-finish straight. Matt Daly putting in, everyone actually putting in best laps now as they all get up to speed. Looks like Alan Matthews has managed to get back past Stephen Williams. Where? Colin is now on the back of James Rose, who will hopefully manage to pick him off on the braking. Not quite, falls back into line at the chicane, but is close enough to possibly make an attack at the hairpin corner, which he does. He's on the inside and manages to push James Rose to the outside, but he's not managed to get the job done, and it looks like James Rose has managed to get a better drive up the hill. Colin, being further up the field, will have to carry more ballast and more weight due to the success that he has had. Which I believe would be most likely be the reason why the car's struggling to get past James Rose as easily as John managed to. Andrew Whitehead behind the two of them, hoping that the two squabbling cars in front will allow him to catch up and take part in the battle. As Matt Daly has driven up the road in the second, the gap now nearly 2.5 seconds, but it can all change, as we know, with a long race ahead of us. Can he remain consistent ahead of the chasing back? This ball breaking points are getting passed by Mr. Brammer at the back. Colin Caniff again trying to line up another passing manoeuvre. James Rose leaving him the entire width of the circuit and more, but is able to stay out in front. Andrew Whitehead trying to close in on the both of them. Contact between the two could potentially be disastrous as Colin takes another run up the inside, but is not able to do it this time around. Falls back, but Rose gives him extra space, tries to take a wider line, allowing Andrew Whitehead to close up on the both of them. Come to turns 5 and 6. Spread out a little bit more. Colin is to fall back behind us. But never mind. Whitehead trying to eye up the maneuver, but not quite close enough, and unfortunately a half spin from Andrew sets him back down the track, so he has all the work to do again to try and catch up as the gap opens up between James Rose and Colin Caniff. As we see Matt Daly trying to storm away up the road, but the gap is held to Alex Smith, who is now getting into his stride. We see someone in the pits then. Too sure who that is. Alex Smith now managing to get the gap down to 2.5 seconds and is holding. As there's a change in the middle, Alan Matthews has managed to get up past Tim Perry. Whitney, unfortunately, 4 laps down, so must have incurred major damage from the instance at the start of the race. Stephen Knight in 15th there. So as we close up the first 8 minutes of the race, Matt Daly is in first place after a fantastic start. Alex Smith in second. John Billingsley is currently in third, with James Rose taking a very wide line through the Minarelli corner. In fourth, Colin Conniff in fifth, Andrew Whitehead in sixth, Alan Matthews in seventh, just ahead of a small gaggle of cars. Tim Perry in as they were actually trying to get past the lapped track, and there's contact between Rob Whitney, who hits the barrier now, unfortunately pushed offline, and Andrew Cracker, unfortunately not able to get the car slowed down enough under braking, does bump into the back of Tim Perry, but they both managed to get away with the contact. Poor Rob Whitney, who has unfortunately disconnected now and will register as a DNF after I think a poor start saw him pointing the wrong way and was unfortunately 4 laps down by that point. So where were we? Andrew Cracker now in 9th, trying to catch up to the back of Tim Perry and cleanly pass this time, trying to reduce the gap. Greg Young in 10th, Stephen Williams in 11th, being chased down by Andrew Brammer in 12th, Guy Swarbrick in 13th, Paul Plant who back in 14th, so it's a very strange place for him to be. So has obviously had an incident at some point. The car's very beaten up, so fortunately must have been pointing one way at some point. And Stephen Knight in 15th. The gap now between, as we see the pit window open sign, so the drivers now have 20 minutes of the race to make their mandatory pit stops. It looks like Andrew Brammer does manage to catch up to the back of Stephen Williams and take the place. 6 laps into the race now. Alex Smith doing a very good job at keeping out in front at the moment. Not able to lose, beg your pardon, Matt Daly out in front at the moment, and Alex Smith maintaining that gap behind him. As we see the next 3 gaggle of cars, Colin and James still battling it out for 4th place. He's going defensive, trying to keep Colin behind him. Unfortunately, he goes wide, loses time. There's contact between him and Colin. They hit again, and they're both in the barrier. Andrew Whitehead again comes up to the back of James. James able to keep out of the way of him. Yes, Andrew manages to get through. So an unfortunate wide line from James saw him lose pace quite dramatically. Colin tried to capitalise on that and get 4th. Unfortunately, they both tangled and ended up at the side of the road in the barrier. So both will have sustained some suspension damage, I presume. Although James Rose managed to get back up to speed quite quickly, and on the back of Andrew Whitehead, I imagine that car may be a little bit difficult to handle now after the impact it has received. Either taking to pit road for any repairs. I'm sure they will both carry on. Colin Caniff most likely not be very happy with that. incident in the race and is now back into 6th place. Unfortunately, the race going from bad to worse for Colin from the start. See Matt Daly in front now, responding to Alex Smith, and has eked out the gap between them now over 3 seconds. Billingsley in 4th, trying his best to catch up to Alex as well, so I suspect maybe Alex had a little bit of a moment to lose that much time. He was showing very, very good pace to get as close to that as he did. Andrew Whitehead now up into 4th. 2 squabbling cars in front of him took themselves off the track for him. White half spin again for Andrew at that corner. Slight weak spot that maybe the others can capitalise on. As we see the chasing car, James Rose. And a fastest lap from Matt Daly responding to Alex Smith, getting closer. Mid-pack cars have spread out a little bit. Colin now taking a steady pace to try and catch up to the 2 in front of him. Alan Matthews managing to fight his way very well up through the pack into 7th place. Will be trying to hunt down Colin as hard as he can. Andrew Crockett in 8th position, Tim Perry in 9th, Greg Young in 10th, Andrew Bremer in 11th, Stephen Williamson rejoining the circuit there after, I presume, a like excursion from the track. Paul Plant in 13th, Swarbrick in 14th, in Orange Black Halford sponsored there. Stephen Knight in 15th, and Rob Whitty, who's actually rejoined us, who I didn't see when that happened. It looked like on my screen there was a DNF there, but has managed to rejoin us. Is a few laps down, unfortunately, after the performance, but has rejoined the race, which is very good to see. No one opting to take the pit stops yet. Be interesting to see when the first cars begin to crack and need to top up on the fuel. .517 horsepower, 524 Nm of torque from these engines will be very thirsty indeed, especially at the pace that Matt Daly, Alex Smith will be driving. Keep at the front of the pack. Slight spin from Matt there, but is able to get away with it. Does lose some time quite considerably to Alex Smith, who's closing the gap now. And get it down to 1.5 seconds, but is able to maintain. Daly not able to lose the sight of Alex Smith out of his mirrors. Doing a very good job. To keep up his performance. The pass start finish straight to complete lap 10 of the race. Gaps opened up a little bit. In first position, Alex in second. Now 1.5 seconds behind Matt. A change in the middle as Tim Perry is the first. We see take to pit road. Alex Smith doing everything he can to respond to that loss of time from Matt. Trying to apply the pressure. Let him know that he's still in Matt's mirrors. As both come down the straight, 2 turns, 14 and 15. Expertly placing the car where it needs to be. We see someone else take pit road. That looked not suspected that was Colin for a second, but that was not. That looks like Stephen Knight has taken to pit road. Alex Smith now takes the pit road from second place to take on more fuel for the race. This will be very interesting whether Matt can try and do his best to keep a good gap, or whether he will get leapfrogged when he comes to take his pit. A few people coming into the pits now. Alex Smith, as we saw, Andrew Whitehead now in the pits. See how long it takes for a pit stop. Alex Smith now onto the exit pit road, so roughly 51 seconds for pit stop, as the 52 seconds for Andrews, is slightly longer in the pits. Whether that means he's taken on more fuel perhaps, or slightly longer tyre change. Andrew Cracker 50 seconds for his pit stop. So when will Matt Daly need to take to the pits? John Billingsley currently 6 seconds behind, 7 seconds behind. On the next lap, so Matt Daly has taken to pit road. Do have Warbrick, sorry, taking a slightly wider line there. Alex Smith currently in 8th position, 49 seconds behind. But that was after Matt had taken to pit road. So see whether he can capitalise on Matt's pit as Alex comes up to turn 14 and 15. He comes down to start to finish straight, and Matt is already on pit road and exits and has a very big gap over Alex Smith now. But Matt will have to get the car back up to temperature after his pit stop, excuse me. See a few of the mandatory stops ticked off the order by the looks of it. So the gap between Matt Daly and Alex Smith nearly 3 seconds by the looks of it. Of course, as we see Colin now take to pit road from first place. Again, he was Colin was in pole position at the beginning of the race, but a bad start for him, tumbled down to 5th position, and then a couple of incidents caused him to drop even further. As the order will sort themselves out now. Colin now on the exit from his pit. There is a change in the mid-pack as Mr. Cracker, fortunately, looks like Andrew Cracker took a rather wide line, lost some time there. And Alan Matthews trying to get past, but unfortunately tried to fit the car in a gap that looked like simply wasn't there. Contact made between the two, and Andrew Cracker is out in 8th place. But don't forget, Alan still has to make at least one mandatory pit stop. On having to make a pit before the halfway mark of the race, so potentially we could be looking at another round of pit stops from everyone to get to the end. As we have just over 5 minutes of the pit window remaining for the mandatory section by the looks of it. People still to make mandatory stops in that time frame, I believe. As the gap has really come down between the top 2 places there. Matt Daly possibly losing out on time somewhere. Alex really putting the pressure on, has managed to claw the gap down, as we saw in the final corner, down to under a second. Matt just able to get the car to drive away up the road. Alex doing everything he can to close the gap as much as possible. With 35 minutes of the race left, Alex looks like he has a better pace around the track than Matt. So it'll be very interesting to see if he can get onto the back of Matt's car, get the position done. Looks like the gaps through the majority of the field are sort of evened out now. Matthews able to make a pit stop, currently sitting in 9th between Andrew and Mr. Young. Paul Plant make a personal best time. Paul Plant has shown previous excellent pace in more classic variants of these races, but not all that high up the order on this occasion. Alex Smith taking a very tight line through turn 15. So hopefully that won't incur him any penalties. As we see the Whitney exit the pit lane. Currently 6 laps down from the leader, and Stephen Knight looks like he still has to make a pit as well. Currently 1 lap down. Gap now 1.2 seconds between the top two drivers. Looks like Alex is really trying to eye up a maneuver on Matt. Both lose a certain amount of time as they come up to turns 14 and 15. Can Alex get the move done? Not quite yet. So Alex showing great pace. Not able to make a move. Matt driving away down the track. Alex not quite in the slipstream to make a maneuver yet, but does seem to be a lot stronger than Matt in the latter stages of the track, sort of sector 3. That seems to be better with actually the weight of the car. The gap now down to 0.5 of a second. Looks like we have him taking to pit road. As they climb the hill now. Able to get a better drive out of the hairpin as they take turn 8 to Giulietta. The sharp right hand corner at turn 10. Alex looks like we've lost Alex Smith from the timing board. So that potentially could be lag or a connection issue. It'd be interesting to see if he manages to pop back into the order. There he goes. Give us a scare, Alex, for disappearing from the timing board, I think, for the moment due to lag on the server, but reappears and is currently still in second place, although it will take a moment for the computer to catch up. Currently put him in 9th, but you know that's not going to be where he is. It'd be bit of a shame not able to sort itself out, because that's going to make it rather confusing for the rest of the race. But we know Alex is in second place. Probably should be writing this down because this is going to get sound confusing if Alex ends up showing in like 10th place, but really he's second. And it's the computer showing that he's down in 14th, but he really is second place. Unfortunately, it's not going to give us an accurate mention on the time either. The fact that the timing computer is slightly, it's showing him as a lap down now, but he won't be a lap down because, again, he was literally only in second moments ago. Whether that lag has caused Alex to lose some of his concentration slightly. Looks like he's dropped back a little bit from Matt as they begin sector 1 of the lap, as they're in sector 1 of the lap, excuse me. all the gaps look like they've evened out with no one making the massive drives for position. Stephen Williams in third place, trying to chase down Guy Swarbrick in 12th. Perry currently showing in 11th, but potentially will be in 12th position for that. Colin Knief closing on the back of John Billingsley. Gap down to mere points of a second as Colin is on the back of the car, trying to get the run down into the straight to the next corner, moving left and right down the circuit, trying to look for a space. Isn't able to do it, is now going to be on the outside. John making a defensive maneuver, able to keep Colin behind him. Colin trying to get the drive out. He will be behind him for the slipstream past the start finish straight. As they make the slight left-hand kink into the chicane that turns 2 and 3. Colin right under John's rear spoiler. Rear wing, sorry. And we'll be looking to try and make a dive under braking, but at the moment it's biding his time. Manages to get possibly a better run. Looks to take the outside of the corner, but will not be able to do it. Can he get the switch back and get a better drive up the hill? He's still on the back of John's car. We come up to the Levy chicane, going back down a hill again, making braking very difficult as the right hand kink. You're very close on each other as they go down the track, but John doing a very good job at keeping Colin behind him. Colin at the moment can't do anything but bide his time. While on the pressure, on to John Billingsley, see if he can get an error out of him. Colin taking a slightly tighter line through that corner. Post matched. As we see Colin take to pit road. Yet again, which I believe must be for more fuel perhaps. So Colin looking to get the splash and dash done very early to get the car to the end of the race. Potentially could pay off towards the latter stages. Alex Smith, unfortunately, due to the time screens, now says he's 3 laps behind, but he's not. He's actually only second at the moment behind Matt Daly, who is now coming up to the back of lapped traffic, and the battle between Stephen Williams and Guy Swarbrick. So they will have the blue flags waved at them, and it looks like Stephen and Guy taking slightly different approaches to get out of the way of the two. Stephen having slight trouble keeping online on the circuit, but leaves a great amount of space for Matt Daly to get past. And interestingly, I'm not sure whether the issues will have that, but it was a very strange moment from Looked like Stephen, who nearly couldn't get it slowed down on the braking and potentially nearly hit the back of Matt's car, but managed to avoid it at the last moment. Right, trying to get past Stephen Knight, and there's an issue. Unfortunately, Stephen comes across Matt's front end, and unfortunately, Stephen hits. Actually, Alex is down there. Stephen Knight hit, or pointing the wrong way, and Alex Smith hitting the front of the car will unfortunately causing to lose time on Matt Daly. I hit the car's chatter as they under heavy braking there. So interestingly, I'm not sure if the we see Colin Keith had exited the pits and actually managing to get past Alan Matthews quite quickly there. So it'll be interesting to know if Guy Swarbrick is actually having blue flags or not, because you'll see him behind him, but whether the lag that we experienced has affected the rest of the server and perhaps caused Alex to look like he's further down the order than he originally was. So might not actually have blue flags activated for the rest of the competitors. It'd be a great shame if that's the case, because again the gap was only 0.5 of a second behind Matt, but unfortunately due to a couple of incidents has lost a good amount of time. But will still be quite considerably ahead of place as well. So as we round out the first 40 minutes of the race, and now we're into the final third of this hour endurance race. John Billingsley having an issue there. Whether there was contact involved or not, we don't know. He's now back into fourth. James Rose up into a provisional second place. Andrew Whitehead now on his tail trying to capitalise on whatever incident that was, but has to come into the pits to get the car to the end of the race. So that leaves us with Matt Daly in first. Unfortunately, Alex Smith... No, actually, Alex is in the pits. I had a panic moment then. I thought he'd had another major lag there, but no, he's actually taken to pit road again for the second round of pit stops to get the car to the end of the race. So a pit stop... So, unfortunately, as you could probably tell, there have been some technical issues, which we were plagued with last Thursday during the second of the two doubleheader races. A similar incident happened, but that was within the last 5 minutes of the race. Unfortunately, this with nearly just coming up to with essentially nearly quarter of an hour of the race to go, This could potentially be a local error. I don't know. Oh no. Right, let's see if last time this happened, the server did return. There was an amount of racing, albeit with considerably less cars on the track. Let's see if we can get that. It'll be an incredible shame for two fleet. We can get this reached in a moment. So apologies for technical issues. There was some fantastic racing happening up until that point. Of course, when you see the back of the car squat beyond belief and then disappear into the shadow realm, you know there's an issue. But you don't get this in Formula 1, do you? The wheels falling off and the car disappearing into oblivion. There we go. So waiting for the... Nope. So waiting for the effort to restart, hopefully. Too long? Do. So I am just going to transfer to the splash screen just for a moment and see if we can get this sorted as soon as possible. Don't go anywhere. As soon as I have an update, I will get back to you as soon as possible. So, as you can see, we are back, not to full strength, as we have lost several people from the order. And it looks like after the running order... so we just need to catch up for a moment to see what's happening. It does look like we have Lost Paul Plant, James Rose, Stephen Williams, Stephen Knight, Stephen Williams and Steve Knight. Alex Smith, unfortunately, is currently showing as a DNF from 14th. Great shame because he was doing incredibly well at trying to catch up to Daly, who at the moment is currently in second place. I'm not too sure what has happened there. Potentially, either the lag may have forced him the race, or we did see Colin enter the pits very early on in the second pit window. He was back in the pits at about 35 minutes into the race. So that could have been a decisive move to leapfrog Matt in the pits when Matt would have had his second stop. Tim Perry going to come into the pits with 10 minutes to go for a splash and dash. Perry managing to survive and a snap that has caused most of the people to lose the server, or to lose connection to the server, which is again a great thing for everyone involved. So what we have of a race left, we currently have Colin kind of in first place, with Matt Daly currently in second, Andrew Whitehead in third, Greg Young in fourth, Alan Matthews in fifth, taking slightly wider line there than usual. Again, doing it a little bit of a slide for show there. Andrew Brammer in sixth, John Billingsley in seventh, under pressure from Tim Perry, or the other way around, sorry. John Billingsley managing to get back up into seventh from running fourth or fifth in the order for most of the race. As we see Tim Perry behind him. I'm not sure what that was. That potentially could have been a cut, or potentially that could have just been the server catching up on John's actual position. Not too sure what happened with that one, but that will potentially be sorted out after the race. Tim Perry in 8th. Nice Warbrick still running in 9th. And as you can see, the list of disconnects or DNFs that, of which including previous runners. So with 6 minutes of this race remaining, the gap between Matt Daly and Colin Cunniff is around about 2 seconds. If they've both got their fuel orders correct, they should hopefully be running the same amount of fuel. And potentially, Colin could be running more ballast on his car than Matt as well. The gap coming down very slowly, as we know that Matt is very strong in the first 2 sectors of the circuit. So could he bring the gap down enough to make a play for first place again? The gap's rather evened out for the rest of the field. Robic looks like he's about to get lapped by not sure. Greg Young in fourth. Guy showing us the massive, great big curbstones on the inside of those chicanes. Will just throw the car to the outside of the circuit if you take the line slightly wrong. Personal best there for Andrew Whitehead. Another one who managed to survive the Thanos snap. Potentially they have lost another one from the server. See if Tim Perry manages to regain connection. Interestingly, it also seems to have reset everyone's mandatory pit stop, so hopefully everyone can get back. Well, that will be accounted for at the end of the the gap down to a second now between Matt and Colin. Arguably Matt a lot smoother with the car. Colin comes in again to the pit, so maybe didn't have enough fuel and make it to the end of the race. So that will hand Matt Daly the lead. As we see Colin go for a dash and dash to get to the end. This will actually give him a fair bit potentially. Andrew Whitehead now up into second place. Leapfrogging Colin as he just exits the pit lane there. 35 seconds pits overall. So Matt Daly back into first place. And hopefully if he's got his fueling correct, we'll have enough to get to the end of the race. Now in completely free air. With Andrew Whitehead now 20 seconds down the road. Could remain unchallenged for the last 2 minutes of the race, plus the lap from the leader. Andrew Whitehead now in second. Colin Cunniff now 8 seconds behind him. No, it's actually 28 seconds behind him as well, actually, isn't it? Because there's a gap between the cars. Greg Young in fourth, 48 seconds down the road. On Billingsley, now looking to get past Guy Swarbrick, who is a lap down. Alan Matthews 6th. Andrew Brammer in 7th. And Guy Swarbrick in 8th. Again, that John Billingsley's line there. And then again, Greg Young taking a very wide line, allowing John up into 4th. But a very strange line there from John. At the circuit. Which potentially could be down. If I'm honest, I'm not sure what I'm seeing at this point. Because after the first couple of chicanes, you could think it's a computer error. But no, this is now straight lining every chicane. So, yeah. I'm sure the stewards will have something to say about John's lines there, perhaps. Entirely sure due to server issue that's a case for completely throwing it out the window, but there we are. So, Guy Swarbrick in 8th there. As we look at the leader who keeps it between the white lines. On the final lap of the race, not too sure how this will finish once all is said and done and discussed, considering the issues the server has had. Coming up the hill now to Aratella. And 8 taking the left-hander now down the hill. Eyeing the braking point into the Inarelli corner. Get nice and smoothly. Chicane at turns 11 and 12. Down the hill to Rivazza. At corners. Onto the start finish straight and will complete the race. Take the checkered flag. And the win goes to Matt Daly. Very well done to him. Despite the issues the server has had, has shown very, very good performance. Capitalising on the poor start from Colin on the front row. And leading the majority of the race as we Whitehead take second place on the podium. And Colin third. The rest of the pack finish the race. Like everyone has just about managed to get their fuel calculations correct to get across the line, which is excellent to see. Greg Young taking I suppose I should say provisional 5th place for all of them on results or any intervention from the stewards will be. And Matthews in 6th. Andrew Brammer. Very steady performance today from him. 7th. Guy Swarbrick in 8th. So, a bit to unpack. Rather strange goings on this evening, if I'm honest. So again, apologies for the issues we had with the server, which had a disastrous effect on the race and a few of the races, including Alex, who was running in second, and catching up to Matt through a lot of it. It would have been great to see after the pit stops what sort of battle could have happened there. Again, I think the stewards will have to have a look at Mr. Billingsley's line through some of the corners. Thank you. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with the AROC group, what they decide to do with the race. As there was a intervention from last week's race as well. We will be back next Thursday. I don't have details of what's happening then, unfortunately. But hopefully all goes to plan, and we see you on